So go ahead, Teya, take it away.
Thank you so much, Alexis, and members of the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Research. I appreciate this invitation, and I welcome everyone. Thank you for being here for this Lunch and Learn on mindfulness-based stress reduction, taking care of you. The hardest part is showing up, so congratulate yourself for being here. I am Teya Kamel, a nurse of 28 years, a yoga instructor for 12 years, and in the past 5 years, I've been serving our community as a certified mindfulness educator. Today, we will explore what mindfulness is and how we can practice it for our personal well-being and incorporate it into our workspaces. I will share a timely reflection to start us off. This is borrowed from a Mindfulness Institute colleague of mine, Elizabeth Perryman. Valentine's Day. Quick check-in. What do you notice as you hear and read these words? Slightly anxious? Well, you may not be alone. The expectations that accompany the February Hatch of Hearts can set us up for feelings of inadequacy, especially when our present reality doesn't meet Hallmark card standards. When anxious feelings arise, we tend to blame ourselves for being somehow less than. But why? After all, if beating ourselves up were an effective method of self-improvement, we'd all be fixed long time ago. What if instead we cut ourselves some slack by meeting ourselves with greater self-love, acceptance, compassion, and kindness? Research shows that the kinder we are to ourselves, the healthier and happier we are, and the kinder we are to others. Mindful awareness can help you observe without judgment whatever is happening in a given moment. Self-compassion recognizes the fact that everybody, including you, and encourages you to inquire kindly, what do I need right now? Karen Neff and Christopher Germer in the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook explain, whereas mindfulness focuses primarily on acceptance of experience itself, self-compassion focuses more on caring for the experiencer. And together they form a powerful antidote to creating they form a powerful antidote to negative self-talk, creating space in which you can give yourself a break instead. Bringing self-compassion to anxious, painful, or embarrassing moments is not selfish. It's skillful. It promotes resilience instead of resistance and increases the likelihood that we will cut others some slack too. Mindfulness begins with the self. As a school-age girl, I remember a time when I fell down a flight of stairs while rushing to the school bus. The impact caused me to black out, and when I came to, I reflected on the importance of taking everyone's advice. Pay attention. And from that day forward, I navigate stairs carefully, paying attention to looking ahead, pacing myself, and placing my feet fully on the stairs, moving with intention. This is mindful walking, a form of moving meditation. Today, we will explore what mindfulness looks like for ourselves and in our workspaces, strategies for cultivating it, resources to tap into, and the value of being curious. Just like Neutrogena says that moisturizing cream is for people with skin, mindfulness is for people with stress. And in this context, we use the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of stress as being factors that cause physical or emotional tension. So if you have stress, let's carry on together. At the end of this session, participants will be able to define mindfulness and how it is beneficial, identify 2 strategies for cultivating mindfulness, discuss how mindfulness can be incorporated into various settings, and navigate resources for yourself and others. Holly Rogers, my teacher and the author of the book titled The Mindful 20-something, defines mindfulness as the act of paying attention to your present moment experience with compassionate curiosity. It's challenging when our minds tend to worry about the past and the future, but you can create the internal conditions that lead to happiness. In this way, you can be calm in the chaos of life. So mindfulness is a new perspective that takes practice in observing what is without judging it as being right or wrong, good or bad. So think of mindfulness as a skill to develop self-awareness or interoception that informs our life choices. Cultivating the skill of mindfulness refers to specific practices used to focus the attention, as in meditation, yoga, and breath exercises. Being mindful helps us to be peaceful and manage stress, make meaningful connections throughout each day. It can diminish how disruptive difficulties in life can be, and knowing this and practicing it is a gap I hope that we can fill today so you too can experience positive change. So hold the judgment on whether this is good, bad, goofy, or unattainable. Be present here, pay attention, and let's learn together. For university employees and students, mindfulness training can be valuable in helping everyone be more successful and more connected members of an educational community. So I will raise this question right now that will inspire some dialogue later. Should mindfulness instruction be incorporated into professional development training and curricula? Let's move on to gather more information. A review of the literature yields results on the connection between mindfulness and performance, critical thinking, behavior, self-control, and even job-specific skills. Maintaining focus does improve with practice. So think about the sport of basketball. Players practice to improve skill, and over time, they become faster, more precise, and score. While being mindful in the moment is helpful, practice over time improves future focus skills too, like planning and organizational skills. Mindfulness training enhances memory and concentration and also helps to filter distractions, each of which contribute to the success of project management and test taking. Self-awareness, such as identifying our emotions and controlling our reactions, is helpful for impulse control. For example, labeling our thoughts and feelings, as is done in a particular meditation practice, helps us to put language to feelings. Take it a step further to identify where in the body feelings show up, just like worry about an upcoming presentation feels like butterflies in the stomach. Healthy coping in response to such a feeling is in the preparation. Worry can be a motivator or a disabler. Pausing to reflect on thoughts and emotions offers an opportunity to shift the mindset toward healthier responses and problem solving rather than being reactionary to emotional distress. In people-centered professions, such as social work and medicine, research on mindfulness training showed higher levels of empathy and compassion and non-judgment, along with lower levels of stress and greater feelings of connectedness. Today, as we explore mindfulness strategies, consider making a choice to experience beauty in every moment. Don't expect perfection. Instead, be curious and observe. Begin by being mindfully present in activities of daily living, such as brushing your teeth and putting on your socks. Pay attention to every sensation, thought, and feeling associated with that specific activity. And think of this like monotasking. And yeah, it will feel quite different when we are used to multitasking in a world of vast distractions. Don't procrastinate to when all external factors favor your practice. The strategies we will cover today are ways to train the brain. And compared to weightlifting, we begin small with a few minutes of practice or a few pounds of weight and work our way into more time and heavier weights. This is what we mean when we say we're building our mindfulness muscle. So think of it this way. Mindfulness is an attitude, and meditation is the practice of being mindful. The good news is that meditation is not a big deal. Breath awareness is the practice of simply being and noticing where breath moves in and out of your body as the anchor of your attention. This is a technique to bridge the mind-body connection. Visualization is like taking a mental vacation or imagining in the mind's eye being a certain way or doing a rehearsed activity like giving a presentation or playing a sport. It's useful when we experience feelings of overwhelm and anxiety. Moving meditation is useful when we feel sleepy or restless and looks like walking or even pacing without destination, as in walking a labyrinth. Another strategy is the sensory practice, such as the body scan meditation, drawing attention to body landmarks, all the while noticing sensations. Each of these strategies are geared toward redirecting the attention in a particular way, and practicing together creates harmony within ourselves and among participants. The strategies can be incorporated into the beginning or end of a class or a meeting, in person or virtual, and can alleviate pre-test jitters and public speaking anxiety. So before we begin to address countering obstacles, I'll start us off with one of my favorite teaching stories. Two monks, a wise older monk and his devoted student, were walking down a country road on a beautiful summer day. They came to a river where a recent storm had washed out the bridge. Standing by the river was an old lame woman in great distress. She said to the monks, "Please help me. I must cross the river, but I'm afraid I will drown." The older monk was touched by her distress and agreed to help her. He lifted her onto his back and carried her across the river. Placing her gently on the bank, he said farewell and continued along the road. The younger monk, walking beside his teacher, became greatly agitated. He said, "Why did you do that? You know we have taken a vow to never touch a woman. You should not have done that, and you've made me lose faith in your teachings." The young monk got angrier and angrier the further they walked. Unable to enjoy the beautiful day, his mind was filled with angry, disapproving thoughts about his teacher. After a long while listening to his students' anger and criticism, the wise teacher said kindly, "I left that woman on the bank by the river. Why are you still carrying her on your back?" Obstacles are inevitably going to challenge our ability to maintain focused attention. Perhaps it's a particular mindset we carry, in the example of the monk carrying the worry weight. So if sleepiness is showing up, perhaps more sleep or better quality of sleep is needed. In this case, I invite you to consider a sleep hygiene routine the hour before you wish to be asleep. It means taking action to shut off screens, leaving devices outside of the sleep zone, brushing your teeth, stretching, dimming lights, even adding a calming aroma like lavender. These are all things that you can do to reduce stimuli and promote a sense of calm. As for skepticism, notice it with your observing mind and listen to the words you speak. If negative thoughts are rising up, counter them with a positive statement using an affirmation like, "I can do this." If the reel in your head sounds more like, "I'm so frustrated with this, I can't do it." Another one I like to use is, "I can endure hardships on the way to achieving my goals." To counter procrastination, tell yourself that this is the only moment that matters. Because if you put it off until later, that can be disruptive when later becomes a vicious cycle. So do it now. Wash that dish instead of letting it sit in the sink. Hang up the jacket instead of throwing it on the couch. Get to the gym because later something else will present as a priority. And when you feel time pressure, consider that any amount of effort matters, even if it's a few minutes a day leading up to 10 minutes a day. Noticing that loving yourself feels good is a great motivator to keep that ball rolling and inspire you to return to the practice. So let's practice this together. What is this mindful awareness of the breath? As we become aware of our breath, I will invite you to observe it without trying to control it or change it. Allow yourself to be curious without needing it to be different. It's not surprising that when we turn our attention to our breath, we start to feel like we need to regulate it. The truth is, your body will, and does all the time, keep on breathing without conscious assistance. One trick is to try to imagine your breath as rolling waves, as in the image on the screen. If you notice anxiety or tension arising, then move your focus to sensations in your body, such as in your feet or hands, noticing the way your body feels resting in the chair. And allow yourself to remain open-minded. Let's begin this practice pause. So for right now, I invite you to sit up in your chairs, perhaps come to the edge of your seat and firmly plant your feet on the ground. Lift up through the heart center and relax your shoulders. Draw the chin slightly down toward the chest and allow your eye gaze to be unfocused. And if comfortable, close your eyes altogether. Let's settle in, simply noticing the place where we feel the breath moving in and out of the body. If your mind has wandered, bring it back to that sensation of the breath where you feel it moving in and out of your body. That may mean it's at the tip of the nose. It could be with the rise and fall of the chest. Or perhaps you feel the breath moving in and out of your body with the expansion and contraction of your belly. It's natural for the mind to wander. Thoughts arising may sound like, is it this simple? I'm sitting here and breathing? Yes. When your thoughts have wandered away from that place where you feel breath, just bring your attention back. Take the next 15 seconds to breathe silently together. To end our mindfulness practice, let's all take a deep breath in and fully let that air out with a sigh. And bring your attention back into this space as we move on. Speaking of moving on, moving meditation. On this slide, there are a few examples illustrating moving meditation. Basically, it's a way of calming the mind and creating self-awareness while doing activities like yoga, stretching, walking, and dancing. Sensory practices are ways to engage the senses that connects our outer world with our inner world. And a few examples to illustrate that include the 5 things mindfulness practice, eating meditation, where you fully experience the aromas and textures of a morsel of food. Notice that swallowing it and that sensation that arises by those flavors, and perhaps even memories. Another sensory practice is doodling and listening to music. Finally, the last example on the slide is the body scan meditation. The body scan meditation is an opportunity to draw or anchor the attention to different landmarks in the body, noticing the sensations associated with that particular area. Shifting gears a little bit here to address mindfulness in the classroom. A 2020 study published in Innovations in Education and Teaching International looked at mindfulness exercises for written communication, specifically in large classrooms. The important takeaways from that research included creating buy-in as a way to promote engagement and include a discussion of benefits of mindfulness meditation and how little effort creates results. Buy-in is most effective during teacher-led sessions, using few minutes of theory before practice to add value and increase intrinsic motivation. Tying participation to student assessments is helpful too. Using a script, either read aloud or an audio file playback, can elicit improved attention while learning and greater self-awareness and improved reading comprehension are the outcomes. In the classroom, filtering distractions such as phones, food, computers, chatting, even tardiness, helps participants focus on the practice. Having an array of tools to offer students gives them choice and empowers them to be the driver of their own experience. The Mindfulness Institute for Emerging Adults, also known as MIA, and formerly known as Carlow, was created by psychiatrists at Duke University. The mindfulness course is an evidence-based curriculum designed similarly to Jon Kabat-Zinn's mindfulness-based stress reduction course, but researched to be effective specifically with emerging adults aged 19 to 29 years for improving sleep, self-compassion, and resilience to stress. The same MIA curriculum has been taught in the wild to people of all ages across the lifespan with similar outcomes, though not put through randomized controlled trials. This course is available as a self-study or in person or virtually. And at Carlow University, I've taught 6 different cohorts of this course as a non-credit elective with very positive outcomes. Graduates of the MIA basic course have said things like this, and I quote, "I liked most the accountability of having teachers on the app to review my logs. It was a big help in motivation to meditate daily. It was helpful to me to practice each skill first with the instructors and then practice individually at home. It gave me a confidence boost." And this was from a student from fall of 2021. Another student in the course in the fall of 2019 said this: "This is a life-changing skill if practiced consistently. It will literally change your brain and how you look at your life situations." So at Carlow, we have the luxury of 3 certified mindfulness educators through the Mindfulness Institute for Emerging Adults. And that is our one and only Director of Health Services, Carla Bergamasco. And I share gratitude to Carla because she's the one who introduced me to this certification course. In fact, we were trained together. Julie Gall preceded us in the training, and she's Director of Fitness and Wellness, and already in place at Carlow in a few of the physical education courses like healthy lifestyles, weight training, and yoga. The mindfulness basic course is incorporated into these phys ed courses. They do exist as standalone courses, non-credit courses as electives, and we will move on to learn more about the structure of the course itself. Oops. are we going to? Oh, here's the slide. Pardon the disruption in moving back and forth. So the mindfulness course itself, the one I just referenced, accommodates the schedules of young adults. It is taught in 4 to 8 weekly 75-minute classes. It is structured with 10 minutes of practice per day, where students log their reflections and feedback. Teachers read those reflections and share feedback in real time. It offers this personal coaching approach paired with cutting-edge technology. There's an associated app. It addresses skepticism and builds motivation. And it has related stories and metaphors that adults can identify with. Okay. Other resources available to you and to those in your circles. I've listed a few here on this slide. Some apps that I personally have used and recommend are Buddhify, Headspace, Sam, and Calm. There are audio files of guided meditations available on the Mindfulness Institute for Emerging Adults website. Also available on that same website is access to the free self-paced mindfulness course and also teacher training invitations. So if you feel inspired to take this to the next level, to become a certified teacher, I invite you to go to that website and check out the offerings. In fact, on the slide, there is an image of the upcoming teacher training. As for books, there's plenty out there. I mentioned specifically the Mindful 20-something. That's actually the textbook to the basic course, the 4 weeks. Then the subsequent 4 weeks is a deeper dive into the mindfulness practice of strategies learned in the basic course with more incorporated, such as loving kindness meditation and a yoga sequence. The book that goes along with that second part of the MIA mindfulness course is called Real Happiness by Sharon Salzberg. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook is also another one accessible to you. If you're one that's partial to podcasts, I recommend the podcast by Tara Brach and 10% Happier. In summary, mindfulness education appears in the research literature to have a positive effect on emotional regulation, organizational skills, and an ability to think critically. It can be free or expensive and incorporate. Did I say expensive? I meant inexpensive. And it can be incorporated into daily living and at our institutions of learning as a standalone class or incorporated into curricula. So ask yourself, can you upskill in focus, problem solving, impulse control, relationship building, and stress reduction? Now let's discuss how we can do this for ourselves and for those whom we serve. So returning to that question I raised earlier, should mindfulness instruction be incorporated into professional development or into curricula of formal education to help employees and students be more successful and feel greater satisfaction? I'll scroll through my references and then open up the floor for dialogue. Marla, please.
Thank you, Teya. That was awesome. Of course, I commend this work and practice daily. And I think as the campus nurse meeting, every student with peace and ease as I may, they come to me in such distress most of the time, right? Whether, it's the physical ailments that they're experiencing due to stress or illness or sleeplessness and, all of these things. I think that it's taking me, I've been practicing a while. So I think when you are around others that are in a calm, peaceful, state, rather than, oh, I have too much time for this. And, when we're greeting students and we're kind of setting that stage, that we're a merciful place and we greet each one and we practice ourselves, I think we're able to then show that compassion to our students. So I have found it to be instrumental. I have found it to be just, how can I say, just students just want to come to health and counseling just to hang out sometimes. I mean, we have some things, and if none of you have been here, you'll have to stop by. I know we had a recent meet and greet, but I think that's just our student affairs team. We're doing some team bonding, but we should maybe open it up to others to come in and see our space, or some of you have maybe escorted warm handoff students to our services as well. We're located on the 4th floor. Sorry, giving a shout out, but mindfulness, I think it's, more of a mercy tradition. I started my practice a long time ago when I was a student, and Teya's, we're both alumni from here, and I started practicing down at the Carnegie Museum as an undergraduate. So my practice has taken a long time, and it's been off and on, but I'm a more regular daily practicer now, and you notice a lot more, but I notice for myself that it just keeps me in a steady flow. Does it happen every day? Yeah. Just as change is inevitable, we're all different days, different moods, different, things. But I find overall that it just helps me on every level, physically, mentally, and to deal with our students in the best way that I possibly can to give them and to be of service to them, and to kind of be their mentor for, how are you so calm? I've had a few people ask me, and I said, or if you're interested, we can practice right now. And then I offer that to them, I also offer a lot of neti pot, and not everybody wants that, but I meet each student where they are, and if they, what they're interested in doing and where they are, where their readiness moment is, to learn things that could potentially help them. Not that, I think as Teya said, it's for everybody, just as moisture, we all have skin, we all have these minds, right? And some of us are spinning, and especially as young adults, which I think each of us can remember so many things, right? So many things. And that's why it's so exciting to work with this population, because I share with them that I remember that, and I wanted to, reach Maslow's hierarchy, and I wanted to get to that self-actualization, and how was I going to get there? And I was going to race everybody for it. And that all that racing and all that wanting, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was not treating myself very well in the midst of that. So sharing with them that it can be done differently, and this is one of the greatest things too. And as Teya said, it is absolutely inexpensive, because you can bring your breath with you everywhere you go. You don't need anything with you but yourself. So it's a really wonderful practice. Thank you. And I totally agree with, and I'm trying to infiltrate this into what we now call CTC. It used to be first year experience, FYE, and I still have my book from the master student. I was going to be the master student and do all of those things, and I think life unfolded, and just that noticing and just being open to it, whether it also came with age. But I think what Holly Rogers and what some of these practices have said is that when you're a young adult, you can start this early on, and it started way back for me in yoga class. So and I'm sure each of you have those moments too, where you feel more relaxed, whether it's you're hiking in your nature or whatever it is your go-to is. I think that's why it appeals to everybody. You do what works for you. Yeah, thank you.
Carla, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your testimony. what I hear you saying and what I know of you in daily living is that you live the practice. You model that for those in your sphere, and that sense of calm is then mirrored by the others. They pick up on that. And in terms of how we can incorporate mindfulness practice, I mean, obviously you're doing that in health services, but I love that you brought up that it can be embedded into CTC. It can be embedded into courses. It can become its own course, right? And put through curriculum committee. And so I'm curious to hear, I see Caroline, you have your hand up. What are your thoughts and ideas?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I was just talking to Alexis about this earlier today, that, you know, when you look at neuroscience and you see how people learn best, the people really learn best with a calm mind, you know, and that, so anytime I think instructors can just help students to calm down and to be more present, will already right away, you know, engage them more in the classroom, will help them to achieve more in the classroom because their mind is more receptive to learning about these things. So I think that, you know, even if we don't necessarily make everybody, all the instructors on campus, you know, into mindfulness practitioners, you know, that might be a good idea. But maybe, you know, but maybe we could just teach them how to maintain that calm in the classroom. And that might, you know, and of course, to give a plug for instructional design, I think that that's really important because, you know, when if the student comes to a course that's totally in disarray, then that already brings up a lot of anxiety and doesn't let them, you know, think properly and all that. So that's what I have to say.
Well, I can attest to that because I have been the student in your role as instructional designer. And I have come with a lot of anxiety of my own. And Caroline, you have really picked up on that and helped me to take pause and let that go, because it's the static that gets in the way of thinking clearly and learning whatever you have at hand at the moment. I appreciate your commentary. Thank you. Alexis.
Yeah, I just put something in the chat saying, I'm wondering if we can't just take this course, and I'm thinking about it from two perspectives. One is taking the course and making it a requirement of our students who are at risk, those that we've identified. I'm making a summer bridge program a requirement for those students who are coming into Carlow, and it's a 3-part bridge program that will look at our incoming students, our transition students, and then as our students are ready to get going and graduate. But I'm also wondering, is this something that we could require of them to give them the added support that they need? I don't know the answer to that. And I wouldn't say we should make it exclusive of our at-risk students, but I think that it would be, it's where the Title III grant money is. So that's where my mind is right now. So I want to get a meeting with you guys to see what we can do about generating some integration of this in a way that's intentional, that we can measure it. And then here's where the rubber meets the road, right? I have money to incentivize some faculty changes in this Title III grant. Now, I didn't call it out directly around mindfulness, but I did talk about it from the perspective of professional development and training around things like a universal design for teaching or those kinds of practices. And mindfulness-based practices is centering around all of that work, right? So if we're looking at a learner-centered, trauma-informed advising program, how does mindfulness-based practices fit into that? Because here's where I'm going with that. when we are listening to our students' struggles all the time, that impacts us and how we react and show emotion to them, right? So I'm not teaching you, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know as people in the medical field. But faculty might be dealing with some compassion fatigue. I know I am. And I don't want to do that to my students. I want to be there for them. So I'm just kind of thinking on two levels with you guys. And I hope that we can continue this conversation. And I will look for some time where we can talk and brainstorm and think it out, because I think that there's something here.
I think there's something here too. And that is the hook that I've been seeking, actually, because we have extended many more offerings than we've run the course. We have struggled with motivating participants to commit to their own well-being. We have had challenges with marketing. We've presented this idea to Trio. It's simmering with them right now, but I am definitely interested in collaborating with you, Alexis, and exploring these ideas more deeply.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I will get some movement in that direction, because I think this so fits into our Mercy mission, and we know it's backed by evidence.
Mm-hmm. So true.
In my copious free time, I'm looking at that training that's going on, and I'm thinking,
Are there others who wish to contribute? I thank you all for being here and for offering me this opportunity to share this topic that I'm so passionate about for my own personal well-being and for the well-being of the people I serve. So thank you.
Well, we are so grateful to you, Teya. Thanks for being here with us today. I hope that those who weren't with us will thoroughly enjoy the replay of this, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you so much. If there is the link to the evaluation, I think that could be dropped in the chat at this